let's bring you up to date on Mr. Madison Cawthorn. So he has gotten himself into some very significant hot water with Republican Party leadership over some rather casual comments he made on a podcast, claiming that some members of his own caucus, that he has seen them, he's been invited to orgies and he's seen them doing cocaine. Let's take a listen to the comments from Congressman Cawthorn.
How much, in your opinion, because you've been behind the veil, is this a fictitious show, or is this more closer to like a documentary? Is it that bad?
So I heard a former president that we had in the 90s was asked the question about this. And he gave an answer that I thought was so true. And he said, the only thing that's not accurate in that show is that you could never get a piece of legislation about education passed that quickly.
And everything else is good?
Aside from that, I mean, the sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, the average age is probably 60 or 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life, I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you. And it's like, wow, this is wild.
A sexual get-together. I like the way that he frames that, too. Okay, so those are the allegations.
Yeah, so he said it, and let's just say his colleagues freaked out.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. So apparently what happened is that inside of a GOP caucus meeting, a congressman stood up and said, hey, I'm getting calls about people asking me if this is true about what Madison Cawthorn says. So Kevin McCarthy, the GOP leader, called Madison into his office. Here's what he claims. He claims that Madison Cawthorn admitted in a tense meeting that his claims about House GOP colleagues have done coke and invited him to orgies were, quote, exaggerated. And he said that specifically to Axios. Now, let's put this next one up there.
Hold on that piece.
Oh, sorry.
On that piece, just to be specific here, this is from that Axios report. He says, in the interview, he claims he watched people do cocaine. Then when he comes in, he tells me, this being McCarthy, he says he thinks he saw maybe a staffer in a parking garage from 100 yards away. Then he says, McCarthy, it's just frustrating. There's no evidence behind his statements. And when I sit down with him, I told him you can't make statements like that as a member of Congress. That affects everybody else and the country as a whole.
Yeah, and so then let's put this next one up there. McCarthy continued. He basically is treating him like a teenager.
Yeah.
McCarthy says he told Madison Cawthorn during a meeting today the freshman has lost his trust. He needs to take steps to turn his life around, or else there could be consequences. He also says Cawthorn admitted his orgy and cocaine allegations were exaggerated and untrue. Now let's throw this next one up there on the screen. Madison's colleague in the Senate, Tom Tillis, the GOP senator, also unloaded on Cawthorn. And he said this, quote, I thought about the statement. If it's true, then he's got a lot of information to reveal. If it's not true, he's guilty of being untruthful. He adds, I thought it was a silly statement. It's not the first one. Is Cawthorn a problem, Manu Raju asks? At the end of the day, people in the district are going to have to vote for him, and I would ask them to look at his record and ask what he's done since he's been here. Tillis continues, what is his track record of working on tough issues, and what's he done for the western part of the state? Asked for his assessment whether Cawthorn had accomplished much, Tillis says, not a lot, in my opinion. So the knives are out for Mr. Cawthorn.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, let's put this next one up there, just to put a bow on it. Apparently, he told Roger Stone that Congressman Madison Cawthorn has told me he has not retracted his claims about fueled orgies amongst D.C. elites. Here's the thing. Do I think he was lying? Yes. But do they protest a little bit too much, Krystal? The GOP leaders?
Here's the thing that makes me angrier than anything about this is like putting us in the position of defending these assholes and like pointing out that, look, there are a million problems with these. Would I be like shocked if there was like, orgies or cocaine or whatever? But you can't just make it up. You have to actually have some evidence. And then it doesn't make him look good either that apparently, according to him, this is all going around him, and he's not saying anything. He's not doing anything. Like, you're just letting it happen and then sort of like casually spill the beans on this podcast. Yeah. It's an absurd situation.
Yeah, I think that's right. I just gotta say, they're protesting a little bit too much. Now, I don't think he's telling the truth. I do think he's lying in this particular instance. I know some pretty good gossip, not enough in order to share it to millions of people here, It not is even close to what he's painting here in terms of congressmen and all of that. But look, the whole Matt Gaetz thing, I mean, that was true. Like, that actually did happen.
Yeah.
So it's not
But
like...
Gaetz and Cawthorn are buddies.
Right.
So
Well,
he's not...
So maybe he's referring to Matt.
He's not...
I don't know.
Yeah, well, is he blowing the whistle on Matt Gaetz here?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because I think that they're kind of allies, right?
That could be right. And we're not referring to the blackmail thing, although apparently that turned out to be true. But in terms of Gaetz has already admitted, cavorting with prostitutes and a lot of this other stuff while he was actively a member of Congress. That being said, everybody in D.C. has known about that for a long time, and he kind of was an outlier. The hard partiers, everybody knows them too. It's not a secret. That guy Duncan Hunter, who got indicted, the man likes his tequila. I'll leave it at that.
Was he the one he was using campaign funds
he got
for
indicted.
like fueling his lifestyle and whatever? And his wife
buying,
had a whole falling
buying
out.
top shelf tequila.
That's right.
Some of these guys
and saying it was like things for veterans benefits or what. I mean, it was disgraceful.
So,
totally disgraceful.
I don't know. My take on it is I do think he's lying, but I also do think that there's a little bit too much protest.
Well, I think it's very revealing what things really set him off.
That's true. That's
Because, I mean, you did just have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar like go into their white nationalist jamboree or whatever it was. And that elicits less of a response than this does. I mean, even the the Stop the Steal nonsense didn't elicit the response that this did of Madison, floating that some people are doing cocaine and that they're like orgies and prostitutes or whatever he said, the key bump of cocaine. So look, there's no winners here. There's no heroes here anywhere to be found in this story. You can't just make stuff up about people because you're trying to impress a podcaster.
That I agree with.
Have some cool populist image, which is clearly what he's going for here. Like, you can't just throw out wild accusations, so that's not okay. But it is interesting that this is the thing that really causes them to sort of go to the mat and really significantly chastise him and come out and make these public comments, et cetera, et cetera.
100% true.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.